What is up, guys? Before we get into today's video, did want to shout out the sponsor of today's video, which is very cool. If you're watching this video, you're probably interested in making what I'm getting ready to make. But to make some of the stuff like this, you need tools. Now, I have featured another company that it's a monthly subscription box company that sends you tools every month, a wide variety of different things, which if you're a handyman or you do stuff like that, that's a really cool thing. You can get into that. I really got into it. I think it's a really cool company. However, there is another monthly subscription box company that does tools, and they have different categories, which is really awesome. This thing is heavy. Now, this is Tool Head Crate, monthly subscription box company that sends you tools every month. The really cool thing is they have different categories. You can get basic, standard, and premium. And basic is 30, standard is 55, and premium is 75. I am relatively cool, and they sent me a premium box. Really awesome. So before we get into today's video, be sure to check them out, and I'm going to show you what I got in my first premium box. Little paper if you've got something in the box that you need explaining how to use it. Bunch of different cool stuff. This is actually a kit to work on changing brake pads on your car. So a bunch of different tools that I didn't even know they make, which I change, unless like my new truck, my 2020 Silverado, I get them changed for free at the dealership for like 3 years. But my 17 Traverse, I don't have that, so I changed the brakes, changed the oil, and all that stuff. So this will come in handy for when I do that on my wife's car. More stuff to work on changing brakes. A really neat bunch of different bits. Screwdriver. Not a screw, it's a kit where it's a bunch of different bits. You got Phillips, flathead, Torx, and Allen bits in here. And they're really small, so they'll probably hang out at the gun table over here. Then you have, looks like half inch bits, 4 brake calipers. So this is supposed to be standard for different ones on brake calipers. This one is marine terminals that you can clamp this onto your battery terminal to be able to hook different wires if you're adding some kind of like light or something like that. These are always in handy. This is a 2-piece extension, half-inch drive. I will use these things all the time. And then something really cool, this is a 5-piece brake service kit. So you've got stuff in here if you're changing your pads, or if you're bleeding the brakes and stuff like this. This is a whole kit to help you out with that stuff. So 75 bucks. That is a lot of stuff. Some of these things in this box are cheaper in value, but a lot of them are going to be more expensive, and the amount of stuff that you got in that box was completely crazy. Now, that is the premium box. It was $75. You don't have to get that. You can get the standard or basic, which is cheaper, so you will get less stuff in those boxes. So you can start at the bottom and see how you like it and maybe move up. But if you're into doing stuff by yourself, whether building stuff or working on cars or anything like that, be sure to check these guys out. So now that we've checked them out, let's get on to the video. Alright, so it has been a little bit since I actually had a video up, so I do apologize for that. Had a whole bunch of stuff going on, but we're back now, so let's just hop right into it. Today, obviously, we're going to be talking about how I built my deck gate, and how you can do it too. It's really simple, it's not that hard, and it costs almost nothing. So very cheap. And we're going to have some pictures over the screen and show step by step how I did it. So let's just hop right into it. So the first thing I did, and which will be the first thing that you will do if you decide to do something like this, is figure out where your gate, door, whatever you want to call it, is going to go, and figure out how big it needs to be. So measure the opening to the steps and you're going to want to make this just a little bit shorter than that, maybe like a 1/2 inch vertical and a 1/2 inch horizontal shorter than your opening. And I just made this with 2x4s and balusters. I think I used 5 or 6, and depending on how big your opening is, you might need more, you might need less. It all depends on where you're putting this gate. So I needed to cut 4 2x4s, and I cut 45 angles on all of them, put it together, or laid it on the table together, and then measured vertically on each way. And once you get those dimensions identical, it's square. Once I did that, I did put this together with screws. So once I got to that point, I did pre-drill. Always a good idea to pre-drill if you're using screws, and went ahead and screwed these 4 2x4s together. Now once I got to that point, I took another 2x4 and then laid it on what I had just made vertically, and marked the 2x4 to where it would fit just inside of this square, and made it a relatively tight fit. What this is going to do is to where once you get this thing done and installed, it won't sag down on the end of where it latches. It should always stay the same because this board is keeping it upright and it won't let it go anywhere. And then once I got that installed, screwed that in also, I went ahead and put a top piece on it, and I used another 2x4 for this, and I actually laid this down flat on the top, so this 2x4 is facing the opposite way of all the other 2x4s on here. The reason I did this is because the deck that I put this on, the top rail is actually a 2x4, so I wanted it to just blend in seamlessly. And I did measure this to where the top of the 2x4 on the top of the gate is exactly the top of the 2x4 on the rails on this deck. So I got that 2x4 on there how I wanted, screwed that, and installed that. And then I went ahead and took this out and sat it in place just to make sure it was exactly how I wanted it, and it was. I recommend you don't go too far in doing something like this before you sit whatever you're doing where it needs to go to make sure it fits, before you put a ton of work, ton of time and a ton of work into it, and then find out you screwed up something a long time ago and now it's got to be taken completely apart. So it's a good idea to usually, if you can, get to a certain point and then make sure it's correct. So I sat this up there and it was perfect how I wanted it, and now we're moving on to the balusters. I did use 5, and I cut, usually when you get these, they have angle cut on the top and bottom. I cut that off so it was flat, and it went right up against the 2x4 that I put on the top, and the 2x4 stuck over enough to where you couldn't see the top of the balusters, which would have looked weird. And then I sat them on there, and I did cut that off to the length where the bottom of the baluster with the angle, that was at the bottom of the gate. So I cut that much off of it, so it was the exact distance from the bottom of the gate to butting up to the bottom of the 2x4. Then once I got to this point, the gate was pretty much done. All of the woodwork was completely done. And now moving on to hardware, and you could go a lot of different directions with this, so I'm not going to talk too much about that because you can do so many different things. We're just going to talk about what I just happen to do, and you don't have to do it this way. You can do it a number of other ways. But I just got 2 of the cheapest hinges I could find at Lowe's. I think they were just like zinc coated, and I got them for, I think, just a couple of bucks a piece. So I did need to look great because at some point down the road this is going to get painted or stained, so I wouldn't really worry about that. So I just got the cheapest thing I could get. And then this is the latch that I ended up going with. You can lock it if you need to. I've seen people use these on sheds. I put it on here. I installed it on the gate, installed the gate, and then took the bolt and moved it over to where it was going to go into the railing that was already there, and just figured out where that was going to be, and figured out how big the hole needed to be for that to go in there, and moved it out of the way, drilled the hole down in there. So now you can just lift it up, slide it into the railing that was already there, and it can't move, and then you actually have to lift up, pull it out to be able to open it. That's just the way I did it. You don't have to do it that way. There's a bunch of other different types of brackets that you can use. And that is how I did my deck gate. Like I said, this wasn't very hard to do, and it doesn't take long to do. Just figure out what exactly you need, and you can't really make this a whole lot expensive. I mean, this is usually a very, very cheap thing to do, and it's not a hard thing to do. Anybody can do this. And I recommend you make your gate however big you need to for your opening, but make it just like this. The only thing is that you can do a bunch of different hinges and a bunch of different latches depending on where this is going and how you want it to look and stuff like that. Like I said, this has been my first video in probably going on close to a month. I've had a whole bunch of stuff going on, but I finally was able to sit down and do this. I actually did this project a while ago, but I'm finally getting around to filming and editing and putting it on YouTube for you guys. Hopefully you like this video. I do have a video that went up before this where it was kind of a preview of a bunch of stuff that's going or coming on down the road on the channel. Bunch of different videos I'm doing on this project. If you're interested in checking that out, it was the video I uploaded right before this one. And stay tuned, because I have a ton of videos on that specific one, and I've got a couple other videos that I'll be funneling in there somewhere. So be sure to stay tuned, get subscribed to the channel, and please, if you do anything else, comment on this video. Let me know your thoughts on this and anything else. Just really want you guys to start commenting on the videos and let me know what you think, if it sucks or if you liked it. I want to know. Be sure and comment. Be sure to like and get subscribed to the channel, and I will see you guys next time.